Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to solve question number 13.27. The chapter which we are related with is leverage and capital structure, and I am going to inform you that this is last question for this chapter 13.27, and believe me, it is more likely be more likely to be the best question of this chapter, where everything would be revised in a very comprehensive manner. Though we have already solved a few questions related to the topics which are discussed in this question, but all previous topics, all previous calculations would be comprehensively discussed in this question 13.27. Let just see the volume of this question starting from here, and now see the requirements: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. So these are requirements and you will surely be in a position to enjoy this question because every element related to this chapter would be calculated. Now let me introduce the way we will solve this question. We have all inputs present over here, sales with three different probabilities, and that equity ratio, five different ways are written in over here. We need to calculate EBIT, we need to calculate amount of debt, then we need to calculate amount of interest, and then EPS. Actually, instead of solving A, B, C, D in this way, simply what we will do, we will make our income statement for each option present at previous part of the question. We will calculate EBIT, interest, tax, and net earning in the same way. So all these A, B, C, three requirements would be fulfilled. And at the same stage, we will calculate our EPS as well. The very first thing which we will calculate would be our EPS, and through this EPS, above A, B, C will automatically be calculated. So please be attentive, and we are going to solve it over here. So we are not writing requirements, rather than we will make our income statement at start. So let's just make a little arrangement. So here we will be making our income statement. There are three options: first, second, and third. Okay, it would be done, and even one short column would also be enough. Let's make its heading. As you know, these are live lectures, so every arrangement would be made in front of you. Nothing would be hidden. Income statements. There are three different income statements would be made. The first would be with 0% probability was given in question. Let's see it again. These are probabilities 30, 40, and 30. All right. So first statement would be made 0.3. Second statement would be for 40, 0.40, and last would also be for 0.30. And how we will start our statement, since EBIT is needed to be calculated, so we will start with sales. Then we will subtract variable cost, after which we will subtract fixed cost. Subtracting variable cost from sales, we will get contribution margin, and after subtraction of fixed cost, we will get net margin. It is also called EBIT, earning before interest and by subtracting fixed cost. When you will have your EBIT, we will subtract amount of interest, after which tax would be calculated, and finally we will subtract preferred dividend if it is present in the question, and by subtraction preferred dividend we will get our net earning. It is also called earning available for common share holders. So guys, in this way our income statement would be completed. So actually this is teasing little bit. The function of this wrapping up is basically to adjust all headings, but it is not adjusting. This is your first heading, second heading net margin, and when you will subtract your interest, we will get earning after interest and before tax. This earning is also needed to be wrapped up, but this button is not working. That's what I was saying. So we'll have to move remaining thing from here to little down to make this heading visible. Okay, so guys, we have our heading again. Perhaps we would need to merge next heading as well. Now this would be earning after interest and after tax. Okay, let's transfer this heading to this because we need this space. Setting in front of you will help you how to prepare your values as well. So this is your heading, and then less preferred dividend, and we will get our heading last, which is net earning. So kindly note it down. In this way we will complete our income statement. So what I was saying, look over here, your EBIT is present and EBIT would be calculated, and we will name that A part, and then amount of debt, and beside this we will calculate amount of interest. So over here when you will calculate amount of debt, you will automatically be calculating amount of interest. In this way our requirement would also be completed. B part would be completed, and here we will name them. Okay guys, so the very first thing which you will be noting it down, that we have 6 lakh, 9 lakh and 12 lakh are sale. First sale for 0.3 probability is 6 lakh. So let's write down 6 lakh as your sales. For variable cost, let's go back. The firm, okay, fixed operating cost is 3 lakh and variable operating cost equal to 40% of sales. We can mention over here, this is 40% of sales. Again we need more space, and let's make for it as well. For first statement we need to do this work, otherwise for second statements we are not required to do that. Okay, so 40% of sales would be your variable cost. Amount of sale 6 lakh, and you will calculate 40%, multiply by 40 divided by 100. So we have got our variable cost. At this stage, we are open to calculate our contribution margin, which is actually the difference between variable cost and sales. Over here, your sale is 6 lakh and you will subtract your variable cost, which is 2,40,000. So we have got our contribution margin. Little adjustment is needed over here as well. Okay guys, so 6 lakh was amount of sales. Then you have subtracted your variable cost by taking 40% of sales. You have got your contribution margin. Again go back, and what we have over here, 3 lakh, which is fixed operating cost, 3 lakh. So just put 3 lakh over here. After which we are now open to calculate earning before interest and tax, EBIT, simply by subtracting fixed costs from contribution margin. Contribution margin was 3,60,000 and you will subtract your fixed cost, which is 3 lakh. So we have got our earning before interest and tax. This was your first part which we have calculated, and now in the similar way we are going to calculate EBIT for second option, 0.4 probability, 40% chance. So 40% chance is we will sell up to 9 lakh. Okay, so just put sales as 9 lakh, and this 9 lakh would let us to calculate our variable cost, since it has been given in your question that 40% of sale would be your variable cost. Okay, so over here you will be doing same, and we will now calculate 40% of sale. For second option, sale is 9 lakh and you will calculate 40%. So we have got our variable cost, after which we are open to calculate our contribution margin, which is difference between variable cost and sales. Amount of sale in this section is 9 lakh. Variable cost is 3,60,000. So we have got 5,40,000 as our contribution margin. Keep it in mind, fixed cost will never be altered. It would remain same, 3 lakh. So here you will put fixed cost as 3 lakh. After its calculation, we are now open to calculate EBIT by subtracting fixed cost from contribution margin. Fixed cost over here is 5,40,000 and you will subtract your fixed cost is 3 lakh and contribution margin is 5,40,000. So 5,40,000 minus fixed cost, which is 3 lakh. So we have got our second EBIT for second option, 2,40,000. Let's mark it. And similarly, we will be solving same procedure we will be solving for EBIT with the same procedure. 0.3 probability is your next and sale is 12 lakh. So over here you will put 12 lakh as your sales, after which you are going to calculate variable cost, which is 40% of sales. Amount of sales 12 lakh and you will calculate 40% by multiplying 40 divided by 100. In this way our variable cost has been calculated. We are now open to calculate contribution margin, which is actually the difference between variable cost and sales. To calculate difference, we will take sales 12 lakh and subtract 4,80,000 as our variable cost. So contribution margin has been calculated. So we need to make its statement like this. Okay, let's merge it. Presentation of question is very important, and I have to take additional 5-6 seconds. Why? Because this presentation should be identical to each other. Contribution margin has been calculated, and as it was earlier informed, fixed cost 3 lakh, it would not be altered no matter whatever option you are doing. So it would remain same 3 lakh, after which we are open to calculate earning before interest and tax for third option by subtracting fixed cost from contribution margin. Contribution margin was 7 lakh 20,000 and you will subtract your fixed cost which is 3 lakh. So we have got our earning before interest and tax for the third option. Now we are responsible to calculate our interest and we will make this whole income statement and will mention for which option we are doing it. So under here, first debt equity ratio would be taken. Look over here. This is capital structure and equity ratio is 0. Before tax cost of debt is also 0. Required return is here. So these are important things. Capital structure 0 and before tax cost of debt, these are interest rates 0%, 8%, 10, 13 and 17. So in this way we will make heading of first statement. Debt equity ratio which would be used is equal to 0%. This is your first heading. In this way your debt would be 0. As debt equity ratio is 0, it means no debt had been taken and your equity would be equal to, we will say how much capital structure we do have and we'll have to read the capital structure, how much total capital we do have. Let's start our reading. We should have our capital structure 1 million. The firm has capital structure 000 analysis. Okay, here you can see the firm's total asset of 1 million. Please underline it. Firm's total structure is 1 million. And this is important part. You have to note it down. Firm's total asset 1 million. Alright, so we were solving our question and here equity would be equal to 1 million. 1 million means this is your amount of 1 million. Please note it down and let me know how did we made it. This is important part of your question to decide how much equity and how much amount of debt is. We are highlighting it and this is your income statement and we should highlight it as well. And you know, first answer was your EBIT. Let's mark it as well. For answers we can use a different color. So guys, this was your requirement EBIT that has been solved. Okay, come over here and how we have calculated this equity 1 million, debt 0. Please understand that first debt equity ratio was 0%. What does it show? That there is no debt. Capital structure, debt ratio, debt equity ratio 0%, which is showing that no debt has been taken. Total equity was given in your question 1 lakh and no debt is present over here. So when you will calculate your income statement for 0%, there will not be any debt and whole amount of capital structure would be considered as equity financed. Capital structure 1 million. Now let me know if there is no interest, if there is no debt, obviously no interest would be paid over here. So finally you will put 0. Again for second statement 0 and 0 interest. By putting amount of interest, we are now open to calculate earning after interest. which is actually the difference between interest and EBIT. To calculate this difference, we will write EBIT 60,000 and subtract amount of interest. So you have got your earning after interest. In the similar way, to calculate earning after interest for second option, you will be performing the same function. We need to subtract interest from EBIT. 240,000 EBIT, subtract amount of interest. We have got second earning after tax, and then we have our earning after interest for third option. For this we need to subtract amount of interest from EBIT. 4,20,000 EBIT, subtract interest. We have got our earning after interest. So guys, our different parts are going to be solved. We have calculated amount of equity and debt. Let's go back to the requirement. Calculate amount of debt. So first statement we have already calculated. This is your answer. Amount of debt for first option is 0. Okay. And then C requirement was saying calculate amount of annual interest. Here your requirement was calculated. Amount of interest is 0 for all the options. Earning after interest has been calculated, and now this is also needed to be merged because we have taken extra space over here, and we are doing the same for remaining two parts as well. Look what I had said. This is so important to make your question presentable, make your working presentable. Now we are going to calculate our amount of tax. For that, let's go back and see. This is 40% tax bracket. Please note it down. 40% tax bracket we are up to. So here you will calculate your tax. To calculate tax, you need your income before tax. 40% rate we are mentioning over here. What you need? Income before tax. This is your income before tax, that is 60,000, and you will calculate its 40%. So we have got our amount of tax. Please note it down. To calculate tax, we need income before tax. That was 60,000, and simply you have taken 40% of previous income. Tax has been calculated. We are now open to calculate earning after tax, which is actually the difference between tax and previous income. Previous income was 60,000. You will subtract amount of tax 24,000. So we have got earning after tax, that is 36,000. And in this way, this part has also been completed, and we are going to do the same thing over here, just merging the cell. So this is your earning after interest and after tax. So let's calculate tax for the second option, for which what we will do, we need earning before tax, and that earning is 240,000, and you will take 40% of previous earning. Tax has been calculated. Now we can calculate earning after tax by subtracting tax from previous earning. 240,000, amount of tax 96,000. So we have got our second earning after interest and after tax, that is 1,44,000. In similar way, tax for third option would be calculated, and that is to calculate 40% upon earning before tax. 4,20,000 earning before tax, and we will take its 40%. Amount of tax has been calculated, and we are now open to calculate earning after tax simply by subtracting tax from previous earning. 4,20,000 previous earning, 1,68,000 amount of tax. So we have got our earning after interest and after tax, after which preferred dividend would be calculated. Let's get back to the question and see if we have preferred dividend. You can see it is not present in the question, preferred dividend. So little bit ease for us, and simply this preferred dividend would be mentioned as 0 over here, which will allow us to calculate final earning, which is net earning or earning available for common shareholders. So obviously, when you are not paying any dividend to preferred shareholders, you will have same earning. Otherwise, we were needed to subtract preferred dividend from previous earning, 36,000 previous earning, your preferred dividend 0. So you have got your earning available for common shareholder. First option has been finalized. In similar way, you will be doing for next two option as well. Similarly, there is no preferred dividend for second option as well. You can put 0 over here, after which you will calculate earning available for common shareholders by subtracting preferred dividend from previous earning. 144,000 previous earnings, subtract preferred dividend, we have got final earning for second option. In the similar way, no preferred dividend is for third option as well, and we have our earning available for common shareholders by subtracting preferred dividend from previous earning. 2,50,000, 52,000 previous earnings, subtract dividend, we have got earning available for common shareholders. So this is an important thing to consider, that we have completed net earning available for common shareholders for first part. Over here, we are now needed to calculate our EPS. Common shareholder earning is available, and how do we calculate? Let's mark it that this part has been completed, and we are now going to calculate earning per share. So guys, what we are doing, we are not following the sequence given in the question. We are actually following the performance sequence, which would surely be helpful to understand. Here our next part is starting. We are now going to calculate earning per share. And how do you calculate this earning? You need earning for common shareholders, and you will divide it for number of shares. Again, this button of wrapping up is not working, and I have to use it. So please note this formula. Earning per share is needed. For that, earning for common shareholders is already available, 36,000, and we need to calculate number of shares. So these number of shares would be calculated separately. Let's see how we can do it. Alright, here this space can be used. Number of shares. For that, we need equity and divided by per share price. Please note it down. Number of shares, how would we calculate? Amount of equity and per share price. Go back to the question, and this is your first heading. Equity has already been mentioned, that total amount of capital structure was 1 million, no debt. It means total capital structure would also be total amount of equity. In this case, we have 1 million as amount of equity, and share price. Let's go back to the question and look over here. Common stock has a book value of 25 per share. So per share price is also present over here. Simply you will divide it with 25. Statement has been completed. We are now open to put it on our calculator. Simply what you will do, write 1 million and divide it with 25. So you have got your number of shares. Now let's get back. Here earning per share is needed to be calculated. For that we need earning available for common shareholder. This is available for common shareholders 36,000, and we need to divide it with number of shares. 40,000 has been calculated. Let's put it down. Statement is completed, and please make your attention over here. After making statement we can put it on our calculator. So first EPS is arriving, and that is zero point 0.9. So this is your answer. First answer we have calculated EPS. Let's mark it as it has been done. So all answers which are required in the question, we are marking them as yellow. First earning per share has been calculated, and we will use same statement for calculation of earning per share for second option as well. And for this, let's make a proper space for it. Please understand that these settings are more important. Over here, this was for previous part, and earning per share would remain same because we are at 0%. How did we calculate? I'm letting you know again. Total capital structure was, why not we should write it. Total capital structure is same 1 million. If total structure is 1 million, no debt you have taken. Only two forms of capital structure is present, debt and equity. If no debt, it means the remaining whole amount would be considered as equity as well. It means equity is also the total capital structure, or total capital structure is equal to your equity. So finally we are up to calculate our number of shares. Total equity was 1 million. Per share price was given in your question, that was 25. So simply you will divide it with 25. So number of shares 40,000 in this case as well. Now we will calculate EPS. This is also called your EPS. And how do you calculate it? For that, okay, here this is not actually Microsoft Excel, so sometimes it happens, it works, and sometimes it disturbs. You can see that same heading was taken from here to here, but it had not copied. Alright, come to the point. Earning for common shareholders is 144,000, and we need to divide it with number of shares are calculated over here 40,000. Statement is completed, and now we can put it on our calculator. So second EPS has been calculated 3.6. Thankfully everything we are calculating is in a way smoother than butter. Let's take it, and we are now going to make third statement. Okay, everything is settled. I think it would be enough. Let's make little more space for this calculation. Yes, so little help is taken. For third, since we are at the same debt equity level, debt is 0, equity is 1 million, so it means for third option we will have same number of shares. And now we will calculate EPS, or earning per share. Earning for common shareholder is calculated over here 2,50,000. So put over here 252,000, and we need to divide it with number of shares were calculated over here 40,000. Statement is completed, and now you can put it on your calculator. So we have our third EPS 6.3. Let's get back to the question and let you know where we are. Calculate expected EPS. So we have calculated EBIT, we have calculated amount of debt, we have calculated amount of interest, we have calculated amount of EPS. So A, B, C, D parts for only this 0% has been solved. Now you can see how much length of this question could be. Just 0% has been solved for A, B, C, D. Let me show you. EBIT was calculated over here. Answer is highlighted. 60,000, 250,000 and 420,000. These are your EBITs. And then for B part, what you have done, amount of debt. Look over here, amount of debt is 0 for all three options. And then at C part, annual interest. This was your third part, amount of interest in this was calculated. So we have to mark it as well. This was your requirement, earning before interest and tax. Let's mark it. Get back to the question and look over here. Calculate annual interest on debt. So this is your answer of annual interest on debt. Then D part was saying to calculate EPS, and here you can see EPS were calculated for all three options. So first A, B, C, D part were solved and option was 0%. This is your first option and we need to make four options just like same. For now, what you will do, I am using these headings for calculation of our second debt equity option, picking these headings just to save the time. I will use these headings for our next calculations, but obviously for second option we won't be using same numerical parts, just copying for statements only. So here everything would be changed. We don't need these numerical portions, remove them, and we don't need these calculations as well for second option. Okay, so come to the question. Our second option, instead of 0% debt equity, we have 15% debt. Change this heading. Our debt equity ratio has been changed from 0 to 15%. So now we will have 15% debt. Debt will be calculated over here. Total equity, total capital structure is 1 million. So 15% would be the debt. Here I will show you how to calculate. Look, total capital structure was 1 million and 15%. Please note it down. Total capital structure 1 million, 15% was debt. Let's calculate it. So it means 150,000 is your debt. We are now going to write 150,000. Yes, 150,000 would be the amount of debt. How much equity would be? For that, here you will calculate total capital structure 1 million, out of which 150,000 was amount of debt. So 850,000 would be your equity in this case. Let's change it. 8,50,000. Now you can see that we have 8,50,000 as equity. Amount of debt is 15,000. In this way, you can calculate your interest easily. Total capital structure is in front of you. And please note it down how we have calculated this 150,000, because it was said that 15% is debt equity ratio. So out of total capital structure 1 million, 15% was debt and remaining amount would be considered as your equity. Remaining amount you have calculated in this way. Total capital structure 1 million, 150,000 was debt. So remaining amount would be your capital structure. This is second part, and second part we have started for debt equity 15%. How we have decided it? Please go back, and these are options given. 0% has been sorted out. Now we are solving 15% and rate of interest is 8%. I'm hopeful it is little blurry. The rate of interest is 8%. We will mention over here as well, so that we should not forget that this is 8% bracket for interest. Okay, this is first part and we don't need to write it over here. Second part we are doing, and here we need to put it 8%. So guys, for point 3 probability, our level of sale is 6 lakh. Let's start our question for second option. 6 lakh amount of sales. Variable cost is 40%. 6 lakh your amount of sales. You will simply calculate 40% to decide variable cost, after which we are open to calculate our contribution margin by subtracting variable cost from sale. 6 lakh amount of sale, variable cost to 40,000. We have got our contribution margin. Fixed cost in question, it would remain fixed, and that is 3 lakh. For all the option, we will put same amount of fixed cost 3 lakh. EBIT is open to calculate by subtracting fixed cost from contribution margin. Your contribution margin 360 and your fixed cost 300. You have got your EBIT. Here amount of interest would be calculated. We need to apply 8% rate upon previous income. Your EBIT or earning before interest was 60,000 and you will be calculating 8% for amount of interest. So we have got our amount of, no, we need to put interest upon amount of debt, and that is 150,000. So here 150,000, you will calculate your interest upon debt 150,000 and you need to put 8%. Please note it down how we are going to calculate interest. We need amount of debt because interest is associated with amount of debt. Frequently other income was taken, but actually amount of interest would be calculated upon loan. Loan we have decided 150,000, 8% we are calculating, so amount of interest is 12,000. After which we are open to calculate earning after interest by subtracting interest from previous income. 60,000 is your EBIT, previous income, and you will subtract amount of interest, which is 12,000. So we have got our earning after interest. Next step is to calculate tax, for which we need previous earning before tax 48,000, and you will calculate 40% amount of tax. Tax has been calculated. We are now able to calculate earning after tax, which is the difference between tax and earning after tax. Earning before tax 48,000 was previous earning. You will subtract amount of tax and here you have got your earning after tax. Since in question no dividend is present, you will put 0. We are now open to calculate earning available for common shareholders, for which what you will do, subtract dividend from previous earning 28,800 and you will subtract preferred dividend. Finally we have got our earning available for common shareholders. Come down, and here you will calculate your EPS or earning per share, for which we need earning for common shareholder already calculated. Number of shares would be calculated over here, and since our headings are hidden, so here you will calculate your number of shares by taking equity and per share price. So go back to the heading, your equity has been changed 850,000 and this has been calculated over here. Since total structure was 10 lakh or 1 million, out of this 1 million, 15% was debt. So 150 debt, remaining amount equity 8 lakh 50,000. Our equity is 8 lakh 50,000 and we need to divide it per share price 25. It is mentioned in our question. Look over here. The common stock has a book value of 25 per share. In this way, we are now open to calculate our number of shares, 850,000 amount of equity divided by 25 per share price. So 34,000 is your number of shares, 34,000 come up, and now you are open to calculate your EPS. This is also called earning per share, EPS, for which we need earning for common shareholder. Look at over here, earning available for common shareholder 28800, and we need to divide it with number of shares are calculated over here 34,000. So statement is completed. 28,800 would be divided by 34,000. So first earning per share has been calculated 0.847 or 0.85 can also be written. So our first answer, please note it down, yellows are the answers. And here you have calculated your EBIT requirement, amount of interest was requirement, and here amount of debt is also required. So we need to change it as well. All yellow colors would be considered as your answers. So why not to make it yellow as well. Amount of debt 150,000 answer. EBIT 60,000 answer. Amount of interest is also answer. And here EPS earning per share is also answer. Number of shares, okay, it may or may not be required. First part for second option, this is your second option we have started, where your debt has become 150,000 and we are going to calculate for second probability 0.4. Let me check, it is 0.4, yes. Okay, so here we are starting 0.4 probability. For 0.4 probability, we have our amount of sale 9 lakh, and here you will put 9 lakh as amount of sale, after which we will calculate our variable cost, which is 40% of sale. Amount of sale is 9 lakh and you will calculate 40% over here. So variable cost has been calculated. We are now open to calculate contribution margin by subtracting variable cost from sales. Amount of sales 9 lakh and you will subtract your variable cost 3,60,000. So we have got contribution margin 540,000. Fixed cost, as earlier it has been described, this 3 lakh is your fixed cost. It would not be altered, remains same, and you will put 3 lakh over here. After which we are open to calculate our EBIT by subtracting fixed cost from contribution margin. 540,000 contribution margin, subtract fixed cost, and we have got our EBIT. Interest will be calculated 8%, and our capital structure has 150,000 as our debt. So 150,000 amount of debt, and you will calculate 8% as amount of interest. So we have got our interest, after which we will calculate earning after interest by subtracting interest from EBIT. 240,000 EBIT, amount of interest 12,000. Income after interest has been calculated to 28,000. After which we are now open to calculate our tax. Previous income to 28,000 and rate of tax is 40%. Just calculate it and we have got our tax. Earning after tax would be calculated by subtracting amount of tax from previous earning. 228,000 previous earning and amount of tax is 91,200. So we have got our earning after tax. Since in this question no preferred dividend is present, so we are now open to calculate earning available for common shareholders by subtracting preferred dividend from previous earning 136,800 earning after tax and interest, and you will subtract dividend, with which you have got your earning after tax, after interest and after preferred dividend. This is also called earning available for common shareholders. Number of shares would be calculated over here, and for that you need to have amount of equity, which is 850,000. we have already mentioned. This would remain same, 850,000, and instead of calculation we are taking it. In second case we have similar, we will have to calculate separately. Okay, it would remain same because equity for this portion is 850,000. And how did we mention? 15% was debt, total capital structure 1 million. Out of 1 million, 150,000 debt, remaining part 850,000 is your equity. Per share price 25 was mentioned in the question, 25. It means we will have the same answer over here, 850 divided by 34,000. Okay, let's merge it. Buttons of this Excel is not working at all properly. Okay, so we have calculated our number of shares 34,000. We are now open to calculate our earning per share, for which what you will do, earning for common shareholder is available over here, 136,800, 36,800, and you will divide it with number of share 34,000. So we have, okay, statement is completed, 136,800 and divided by 34,000. So we have got our second EPS, which is 4.0. Okay, third statement would now be calculated, and what we have is amount of sale for third option. Look over here, point 30, third option is 12 lakh, and you will put 3 lakh in 12 lakh over here. Amount of sale for third option is 12 lakh. Okay, we are now confirmed. Sale has been mentioned over here. Variable cost is actually 40% of sales. Amount of sales 12 lakh, and you will put 40% to calculate our amount of variable cost. Double is equal to has been put. Let's see. Okay, there is a mistake and we are going to remove 1 is equal to. Okay, 4,80,000 is your amount of variable cost. We are now open to calculate our contribution margin by subtracting variable cost from sales. Amount of sale 12 lakh, and you will subtract your variable cost 4,80,000. So we have got our contribution margin. Fixed cost would remain same, and this is 3 lakh your fixed cost. Similarly, you will put 3 lakh over here. EBIT is opened to calculate by subtracting fixed cost from contribution margin. 7 lakh 20,000 contribution margin, 3 lakh fixed cost, subtract, and you have got your EBIT. Amount of interest would be calculated, and you can see our debt is 150,000. So you will be putting 150,000 over here. It is easy to copy and paste, but since manual working is for student, Excel would not be provided, so I am doing absolutely manual working. So 150,000 amount of debt, and you will calculate 8%. So multiply by 8 divided by 100. So we have got our amount of interest, after which earning after interest would be calculated by subtracting interest from EBIT. 420,000 EBIT and 12,000 was the amount of interest. So we have got earning after tax or after interest. Next part is to calculate your tax, for which we need previous earning 4,08,000. Amount of tax is 40%. So tax has been calculated. Earning after tax and after interest would now be calculated by subtracting tax from previous income. 4,08,000 previous income, 1,63,200 is amount of tax. So finally we have calculated earning after tax. No dividend is present. Earning available for common shareholders would be calculated by subtracting dividend from previous earning. 244,800 previous earning, and you will subtract dividend, and finally we have got earning available for common shareholders. Here we are open to calculate our number of shares by dividing equity with per share price. In this way we can calculate number of shares, and we will be doing same. Look over here, out of 1,850,000 was equity and 150,000 was debt. So equity is 150,000, 850,000, and same share price is similar over here as well, and this 25 was mentioned in your question. Look over here, 25 per share price. To calculate number of shares, you need equity 850,000 and per share price 25, it was mentioned, and same amount 34,000 would be calculated over here as well. So since it is absolutely same, that is why I am copy pasting. A single difference of amount I will calculate manually. Here earning for common shareholders, look over here, it is available for third part 244,800, and we will divide it with number of shares are calculated over here 34,000. Statement is completed 244,800, and it would be divided by number of shares 34,000. So we have got our third EPS 7.2. Up till now what we have done, these were 4 options, and for each option we need to calculate EBIT, debt, interest, and EPS, and these two parts are completed, 0% and 15%. Here 0% debt, you have calculated your EBIT, interest, you have also calculated your EPS. Clear? Amount of debt was also calculated. Requirement ABC was EBIT and here you have calculated your EBIT first requirement, and then you were needed to calculate amount of debt. This is debt 0, and then C part was saying interest, and this is your amount of interest, C part, and then D part was EPS, earning per share, EPS, and has been calculated for all three. Similarly for 15%, everything was calculated over here. Since the length of this question is so immense, we cannot complete it at one sitting. Right now we have completed only two parts, 0% and 15%. Obviously in next part we will say how much work we can do. You will have to be very conscious, very cool, and very calm to understand or to be skillful. So spare your time and sit back with relaxed mind it would be quite enjoyable for you as well. 0% and 15% has been completed, and we will conclude our first part of this lecture 13.27. Next part we will meet again for next proceeding. Maybe we can complete in next part 30, 45 and 60. Right now two statements, 0% and 50% debt equity ratio has been completed. So in this way we can conclude our 13.27A part right now, and we will soon meet again for the solution of next part. Up till then, please take care of yourself, and I am requesting you to please pray for me as well, and a humble request to please repeat the work we have done in this 13.27 for 3 to 4 times, so that when you will listen next lecture it should be refreshed, and the previous part, that means this part, should not be discussed again. So request is to repeat this part for 4 to 5 times. Thank you very much for your time. It's time to say goodbye. Allah Hafiz.